I'm drinking another smoothie.
Looks less
Went
fruity
from
this
my
time. Less delicious.
it's just as fruity.
What's in it? Banana? Don't tell me. Okay, banana for sure. Yeah. I want you to tell me as I get them right.
Oh, well, here's the truth. I don't really remember if there's banana in there unless I was a frozen packet of frozen fruit.
Do you not taste banana?
There's a lot of fruit in there.
What kind of a smoothie doesn't have banana in it?
It might be. There's definitely pineapple in there.
I could take or leave pineapple in smoothies. Anyways,
pineapple's great.
Welcome back to Adulthood, friends. This is the discussion-based podcast where two former childhood acquaintances, now friends, discuss the things that probably matter.
Probably. And that is your adverb of the week. Tune in next time to find out what our next adverb of the week will be.
Well, thanks, Josh. So yeah, that's Josh.
Oh, I'm Josh.
And I'm Maya. And this is our 8th episode. And this week we're going to be talking about relationships. So
relationships?
Yeah. What do you think of that?
Ooh, spicy.
It's hot tamale. So we're, oh God, please cut that.
Nope. See, this week I'm editing the episode. I'm leaving in all the things Aya doesn't
want me to leave in. But
that's
not funny or like, it's just like mildly annoying.
Hot tamales, I don't know.
I feel like I was trying to reference something on The Simpsons, but anyways. So
why are we doing, why this week? What's so special about this week, Aya?
What makes this week different from all other weeks?
Yeah. Jewish humor.
That was a little Jewish humor for you. Well, Josh, this week it's going to be Valentine's Day. So
Valentine's Day.
Yeah. People have the love bug or the anti-love bug. I don't know.
But you either love Valentine's Day or you hate Valentine's Day. There's nothing.
Yeah, or like you love it if you're in a relationship and you kind of are mildly irritated by it if you aren't.
Yeah, you know what? But it gives us a reason to do this episode, so we should thank Valentine's Day for that.
Yes, thank you, Valentine's Day.
Thank you, Saint Valentine or whoever. I don't know what the history is.
Yeah, there's a whole thing. And speaking of thank yous, we have a more significant thank you than Valentine's Day.
That's a great segue.
I thank
look at that segue right there. I'm very proud of your segue. Anyway.
Thank you. Thanks. Well, we should thank Nia.
Nia, yes. Nia. Natanya Zaini, actually, is her full name. Sorry to cut you off. I guess because she's my friend.
No, I'm glad that you cut me off with her full name. You just told me her name is Nia, and I actually haven't spoken to her, but she did beautiful artwork for our podcast, and it's awesome. I'm happy every time I look at it. And my weird ask was that I asked that my cat would be in it with me, like the crazy cat lady that I am, and she totally did it. And I've had people say, "Oh wow, that actually looks just like you," and I was like, yeah, I haven't even met the artist. So you're a great artist, Nia. Thank you so much. And if anybody, I don't know, would she want business? Because she should have business if she wants business.
She should have business. No, you could totally go. I mean, I don't know her contact right off the top of my head, but if you guys like that artwork, because it is absolutely gorgeous, and Nia is really, really good at what she does, I can definitely put you in touch with her. Just like message us on the Adulthood Friends Facebook page. I mean, she did the artwork for my poetry book. She did storyboards for one of my. I have a poetry book that'll come up at some point. Storyboards for one of my movies. I'm forgetting something else she did that was absolutely.
Oh, like on the cover art for the quadrilogy.
Yeah, that's right. For my feature anthology, she did not just the poster art for it, but she did the animation that kind of ties all those short films together in the anthology, which is a huge job. And she's a machine, and she's amazing. And thank you, Nia. And I'm glad we dedicated this huge chunk to you because you deserve it. Actually, you deserve more.
Yeah, she deserves more of a chunk.
You deserve money, honestly.
If we ever make money, you're the first person to get paid.
Yeah, Nia, exactly.
Yeah. So yeah, thank you, Nia.
Thank you, Nia.
And thank you, Valentine's Day, for this special episode. Let's get into it. And we're back. So Josh, do you think you're good at relationships?
Well, I think I'm the best at relationships.
Oh, really? Wow.
No, actually, well, no. I mean, what is your measure of being good at relationships? Because
to be perfectly honest, that was a question I thought you were going to ask me, and I kind of wanted to beat you to it.
Oh, really? I was totally going to ask you that. I was actually, but it's okay. I'm still going to ask you just after I try to figure out a response. But the truth is, I mean, it depends. I mean, if your measure is getting married and having kids, well, I guess not, because I'm not there yet. But if your measure is like having good relationships for as long as they last and getting along with people, I guess I'm decent at that. If your measure is having a lot of them, I guess I'm pretty good at that. I've had quite a few.
Just getting right into it, I see. Yeah, great.
I don't know. What about you, Aya? Do you think
I'm
you're
actually,
good at relationships?
To be perfectly honest, I'm regretting that I asked first, because you kind of took my answer, which was going to be, how do you measure that? I don't know. I mean, it's more or less the same, I guess. Like, yeah, if you're measuring it by, am I married with kids? Then no, I'm clearly not great at that. But yeah, I don't know. I think I like to believe that it's been progressively getting better. I think I've learned a lot in my years on Earth. And
wait, do you think that each relationship that you've had has been a learning experience?
Yeah, I guess it has. Yeah, that's a good way of putting it. And I mean, it's kind of cool to know people in that way. Like, you kind of really get to know someone when you're in a relationship with them. So you learn about people in general. And I feel like my understanding of humanity has deepened based on my uh, relationships. Oh, were we just talking about romantic relationships? Because friendships are relationships too, aren't they?
Well, you know what we didn't do at the beginning of this episode is we didn't really discuss the details of what we'd be talking about. We just dove right in. I kind of like that.
Oh, good.
I kind of like that who knows where this is going to go. We didn't set you up.
I like that too, also because we were thinking of ideas for this one and there were so many that I imagine we're not going to touch on most of them.
Just watch us.
Just watch us. Yeah, we'll just boom, 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 right through them all.
Well, let me ask you a question then.
Go for it.
Now since you asked me one right at the start, I think you've actually touched on this in a previous episode. When it comes to prioritizing your relationships, do you prioritize romantic relationships more or friendships more?
I mean, it's not so black and white now. I would say I used to, when I was younger, for sure, I prioritized romantic relationships, because I think a lot of us are sort of taught that that's the ideal relationship and that's the thing. And if you lose some friendships, who cares? You've got that special, magical, happily ever after thing. I don't know, Disney movies, like
Disney movies that don't care about your friends, only care about. I understand the whole relationship part, but they didn't.
No, they don't say don't care about your friends, but the suggestion is that nothing is as important as romantic relationships. I'm not saying Disney, I'm not actually blaming them, but in general, I think that's an easy thing to fall into. And I mean, we've talked about this, but like, I didn't have like wonderful friendship model template, as we were calling it. I didn't have a wonderful friendship template to be like, oh, friendship is the most wonderful thing. No, if anything, I think it's really easy to look at romantic relationships as a potential solution to everything that sucks in your life. It's like, oh, but if only I have this. I mean, that makes no sense now as an actual, I'd say a relatively mildly possibly mature adult. That doesn't make any sense anymore. A lot of adverbs
you threw in there. I look at that.
I know.
I noticed you throw adverbs in when you really got to couch what you're saying, and
that's why they're
nervous about what you're saying.
It's like, if you don't know what you're saying, why are you saying it? But I don't know what I'm saying, and I'm saying it anyways. So
I think this episode is going to be fun because it has the potential to make either of us so uncomfortable.
I've been so uncomfortable this entire time already. I don't know.
We haven't even talked about anything. Wait, tell us about your very first relationship.
No, what? I was still answering the last question. You can't just start. Oh my God. No, I'm still answering. What was the last?
There's still more to it?
Yeah, of course. I was saying now I've learned that like romantic relationships come and go. And when they go, they really go. Like, they're gone and you're totally cut off. Often you're totally cut off from that kind of part of your life. So if that's, it was like what you were saying with the pillars that you kind of took from that movie, but maybe don't think
didn't take it from a movie.
Anyways,
it was my own thing.
If that's the only pillar that you've really built up, and then that's gone, then like, what do you have to stand on? And I think that's a common thing that people will do, is like overvalue their romantic relationships over other ones.
Do you think that friendships and romantic relationships are just naturally at odds with each other, and you have to prioritize one or the other? Is that like
that's a good question.
Why does it feel like that's sort of a thing that people always fall into?
I just think that like it happens so often that it just, I mean, you spend time with, if you have a significant other, you end up spending a lot of time with them and not really thinking about spending more time with friends. It just happens. Like, I don't think people are sitting there thinking like, "Ooh, I choose my significant other." It's just, it's so easy to fall into that. And I mean,
is that what happened to you in your very first romantic relationship?
I don't know about my very first. I'm speaking generally here, but I'm talking about like,
Is that what
I've
happens
also,
in your relationships?
I'm just gonna keep going. I just like I said, I have friends who do that too, and I mean, they seem to drop off the face of the earth when they're in a relationship, and often it's like sometimes you get like one very anxious partner who is like, you know, who wants to spend all their time with you, or you want to spend all your time with them. Either way, and then it's hard to fit friendships into that. It feels like you really have to work hard to keep friendships going, whereas when you're not in a relationship, it's super easy to have friendships going because those are your main relationships. So they kind of get pushed onto the back burner when you've got a primary.
So you're saying you can have multiple friendships going, and that's easy enough to maintain, but a single person comes into your life who's like
Yeah.
the relationship, and now it's impossible to maintain those friendships.
I did not say it's impossible. I just think it gets a
I'm
lot.
being a little extreme.
Yeah, but it gets easier to let them go. And I mean, I'm not doing that now and anymore in my life, but I have friends who still do. Or if people are fairly immature in their relationships, not to say like, but if they haven't been in a lot of relationships, they're like, I need all of this person's time. And there's a lot of insecurity there. There's a lot of
They put all their
potential.
eggs in the one basket.
Yeah, yeah. So I'm trying not to use examples of people because I don't want to like call people out, but yeah, like I know people whose significant other would feel not threatened exactly, but like they just don't want you spending time with your friends as much as with. Yeah, no, I have a friend who like I think it's even hard for her to see her family sometimes because her significant other kind of requires a lot of her time. So I mean, I think that's pretty common. I don't like
Is
it.
that? I don't know. That to me
Now
is
it
like
shouldn't be. That's a little bit unhealthy, I would say.
it's a little unhealthy, right?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
would say actually it's a lot unhealthy. At this point, if someone required that of me, I don't know. It's hard to imagine someone doing that and still liking them because that's a really
Yeah.
deep insecurity, right? Like,
do you feel like when you're starting out, you tend to like if you have a significant other who has certain demands, you kind of feel like, well, of course I have to listen to them. And then like as you get older, hopefully you get a bit more mature and you think, oh, I can just say no.
yeah. So like,
and you don't think that the
yeah.
whole relationship's going to collapse just because you said no.
For sure. I mean, yeah, you're kind of touching on a few things there, like having boundaries, kind of reining in the people pleasing, being worried that if you don't do everything that is being asked of you, that the relationship is gone or that the person's just gonna go. I mean, I think there's a point where right now my approach to dating is basically kind of not take it or leave it exactly, but basically it's like I'm not gonna hide parts of myself or like change things because that's not helping anyone. That's not going to help me. That's not going to help the person. Let's just like be straightforward about what we're
Like this is
like.
who I am.
Yeah. And if you don't like it, great. Like that's fine. We should find out sooner or later than later. I don't need to trick you into being in a relationship, which sometimes it feels like people are trying to do, when they're like, oh, like, what do you say to someone if this and this? It's like, I don't know. Just say what you're thinking. Like, why are you still doing things like
what if they find out who I really am? Oh,
exactly.
You don't think they will if they spend the rest of their lives with you?
They may not, and that's worse. Like that should be the fear is what if they never know
I kind of get like tricking somebody into like spending a night with you. I get that. Like it's not good, but I get it, right? Like I have to be someone else just for tonight to get this one thing I want. But I get that.
Do you do that, Josh? Have you done that?
Me?
Yeah.
No.
Oh, wow.
No, that's not me. I'm not.
We
no,
thought
it's
you were
not.
such
No,
a
I
nice
don't.
guy, Josh.
No, I honestly don't do that. I wish I.
I really
I'm not.
wish we could post how red you're turning right now because that looks like a guilty face to me.
No, I had to think about it, but the truth is, no, I'm like a serial monogamist.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, we're probably similar in this regard. I mean, I get made fun of not for like spending or like being a player or something. I get made fun of because I've just had like so many relationships. I don't even think I've had that many relationships. I mean, for my age, I think it makes sense. But for some reason, it seems like quite a few to some people. Maybe because I'm, haven't settled down yet or whatever.
Yeah. Why do you go around telling people how many relationships you've been in, or?
No, I just have a lot of friends and they know things about me.
Oh, you have so many friends and they know things. Yeah.
See, look how I kind of turned that on you just like a little bit. Do you see how?
Next question.
No, but wait, I had a question for you and I think you kind of avoided it a little bit, Aya, and I'd like to go back to it. Yeah. I don't know if you
All
remember.
right.
I asked you to tell us about your. Well, you had a first relationship. I'm assuming. I was wondering if you
Oh,
could
but
tell us a
nobody
little bit.
cares about that. Nobody wants to hear about my like 14-year-olds.
Am I
Oh,
nobody?
oh,
Were you 14?
I
You were
mean,
14. I don't know these things. I mean,
was
I've
I
known you all my
14?
life,
I
but I
don't know
don't
how
know
old I
anything
was,
about this.
but I don't know if I like. I mean, relationship. It was,
Oh wait, do I know?
uh,
Oh, I do know this person.
yeah, you do know.
Oh,
So
that was the first one. Okay,
yeah,
and you're still friends with this person.
yeah. And actually, as friends, I would say we're great as friends. But like, I think now as adults, we're like, oh wow, it's definitely a good thing we don't date now. Like you meet. Well, it's so different. I
We're
think it was
learning.
such a 14-year-old, like, or 15. I don't know how old we were. How old were we in grade 9, 10?
I think we're about 14,
Yeah.
15, or
So
15, 16. Yeah, about 10, 15, 16.
it was very much like for that age that I like. For that, it was perfect. And I mean,
Do you think are
I
there
have.
different at that age? Are there different things that like we're into that are like different now? Like what was it then that was like you were like looking
Oh,
for at like
actually,
15 or 14?
honestly, I think in this case it was just very specific because I think I was very, very sheltered in a lot of ways, and I think I don't want to say that he was too, but I guess we were similar in our anxieties, and at that age it was just nice to have like to be with someone who was kind of also at that stage. I don't know if that makes sense. Like,
Is that really what you thought at the time, or were you just I thought your
oh no, I'm
answer would be
looking
like,
back at
oh,
it.
his hair was like really nice.
I mean,
Isn't that what it is?
I don't know what it was. I actually do remember like seeing him and deciding that I liked him, but also I guess it was more like, okay, you know how when you're like 14, you like Johnny Depp, who's like kind of
I mean,
scrawny.
I don't
Yeah,
know this, but
Josh, you know how when you were 14, you liked Johnny Depp.
I was so into Johnny Depp.
Oh, you know what this guy was like? Okay, have you seen the Johnny Depp movie Benny and June?
No, I mean, I've
God
seen a
damn it,
bunch of Johnny
Josh.
Depp movies, but I've seen Edward
Useless.
Scissorhands. Is it kind of like that?
No, not as much.
Not as attractive as that.
It wasn't about attractiveness. It's more like the shy and awkwardness that it was both like, well, we were both shy and awkward. So that was
So you were looking for
fun.
someone similar to you, like very
I guess
like just
so.
like you were.
And he was very like intellectual, well, more so than me. And
Hmm.
kind of the quiet artistic type.
Is that
Who
still
doesn't
what
like
you go
that?
for?
It's not what I don't go for.
Oh, I guess I'm
Uh,
asking, is there something different that like when we're like basically kids
hmm,
that like, that then
right.
changes as we get older? Are we into like different
Oh, that's
things?
a good question. I think I have to think a second. What we're looking for changes a bit. I mean, some of the things I don't even want to say them because then I have to ask you to like cut them later and you won't. Uh, so I really have to think before I talk, which is I'm not used to that. I'm not used to thinking before I talk. It's very difficult for me. Um,
And I can relate to you on that.
yeah. Do we look for the different things? I mean, yes and no. I think there are some things that we'll always find attractive about people. I still prefer intelligent people. That sounds I sound like a jerk, but
That's
well, no,
actually a totally
that's a
normal
normal
thing.
thing. Yeah, it's a
There's
normal
nothing
thing.
jerky about wanting someone who's
I
intelligent.
don't want to date any dummies.
No dummies
No
allowed.
dum dums. Sorry. But some things are just I don't know. What about you, Josh?
What about me?
I don't know. Do you think that you've changed a lot in what you look for?
And what I look for, what's interesting? Here's what I'll say. When I was like younger, I think I had my first relationship. I wasn't 14, I was 17.
Okay.
So, and I was in summer school. I remember my first relationship. And I remember, honestly, I'll just tell the story. Like, I remember getting to summer school and I called after how guys are. I don't know if you know how guys are,
I
but
don't
like
know how guys are. No, I know.
I called up my best friend afterwards
Disgusting, I'm
after
sure.
like my disgusting. I
Just
mean, sure.
kidding. I love men.
uh,
Oh, please cut
uh,
that. Don't say that part.
it's
Josh, god
all gonna
damn
be
it.
this whole
I
episode is
really
just gonna be you saying cut this, cut that,
Yeah,
cut this.
I'm pretty sure like 90% of the episode will be me saying cut it.
So yeah, I got back after my first day basically, and my friend Roman, he goes, "Hey, dude, so any like hot girls in the class, any hot chicks?" I'm like, "Yeah, man, no, not really. I mean, nobody. I was, just being honest, I wasn't into anybody. I was like,
Yeah.
well, there's this one girl she's like way out of like my league,
Mm.
like, so that's never gonna happen." yeah, that girl's ended up being my first girlfriend.
Yeah. I feel like that's the story of most
And
of your girlfriends. It's like a girl way out of your league.
that's like a
That's
real
so
backhanded
mean.
compliment there.
It is a
I said
backhanded
that's
compliment.
a hugely
Yeah.
backhanded compliment. But anyway, for some reason, by the way, in that summer school class, I was like a hit in that class. I got like bullied in my like in normal high school and other classes, and I was not that cool. But for some reason, in this other like in this summer school, which I did to take English basically ahead of time. I wanted to like get ahead of everybody else. So I took English. It was like grade 12 English. And for some reason, I was super cool in this class. Like I did really well, and everyone like thought I was awesome because of it. And like the
Yeah.
hot girl was into me. And I was
Yeah.
just like, it doesn't make sense. It was like movie land just for this one summer school experience.
Maybe it was like
The
an
teacher,
episode
everybody
of
loved me.
yeah, it was like Twilight Zone summer school.
Yeah, I don't know. Then I went back to normal school, and I was like, oh, this is I don't know. That's not true. Actually, well, no. I
That's
still
yeah.
then I had more, I guess, girlfriends after that. But like, I basically, I just remember though, in my first few relationships, I wasn't really being myself.
Mm.
Like, I was trying to be what I thought a girl would want me to be, and I guess I had a lot of insecurity about the fact that again, I was this guy who got bullied and stuff. I thought I was this annoying kid, and if I was to be myself, if they found out who I really was, then they would see me just like those people saw me.
Mm.
And so I felt for the longest time, like I think for like my first 3.5 relationships, I
Three and a
was
half. Okay, interesting.
yeah, I think I was like I was not really being me. And it actually got me in trouble, I think my third relationship. I think that was, yeah, she broke up with me because I don't know, I can't exactly remember what she said, but she accused me of being a certain way or not being a certain way. I guess for not being a certain way. And I remember thinking, no, that's actually who I am. She wished I was who I actually was.
Right. But you had been hiding that
And
part because you were afraid to
I was
show it.
hiding that because I
Yeah.
thought, yeah, she would, and she was like this huge nerd herself and everything. I just remember thinking like, oh my God, that's so stupid. Like, anyway, I still kind of did that because I was used to it in my next relationship. But I think, yeah, in my fourth, I started
So that was the
so
half,
like,
right? That's why you said 3.5, because partway through the fourth one,
yeah.
you kind of
So partway through the fourth
switched.
one, I finally, yeah, it kind of like clicked with me that I'm not being myself, and it's not helping. Like I finally realized, I think because my fourth one, it was a bit more. I think I was with someone who's kind of demanding, and she was like very. How do I say this? Like she would boss me around and stuff, and I would always be like, okay, yes, I'll do that. Okay, I'll do this. I'll do that, and I would just like say okay to things, and because I guess I always thought, oh, if I don't, this relationship will end.
Mm.
And I needed to like grow. I needed to basically. I eventually learned. Oh, I have to grow a bit of a backbone, and like if I can't be myself, it's not worth having a relationship. So it's interesting when I eventually did that. She started to respect me more. I remember this.
Yeah.
Like I was finally like being myself. I would say no to things, and she's like, like, suddenly the power dynamic suddenly shifted. Then I don't know, she cheated on me, but that was like a whole other thing. But like I think that when you get it changes you a little bit when that kind of happens. I mean,
yeah,
I say this, but I'm like still friends with this girlfriend. So like I don't want to like how do I come back from that? But
I mean, she did that thing. It's not like you didn't say anything about her other than the fact that she did that.
But I basically learned moving forward to just kind of like to be myself and to have like some standards, to some degree.
And like boundaries, knowing how to say no is a huge thing.
Yeah.
I don't think I learned that until like, I don't even know, maybe like a year or two ago, like way too recently.
Until a year or two ago.
Maybe 2, 3. I remember like I had one friend and I was talking to her about it and she was like, oh yeah, you realize that actually once you start setting boundaries, that's when you get the respect. It's like you think that you're supposed to do what people want from you to get them to like you or respect you, but actually it's when you like hold your ground that you start getting respect. It's very counterintuitive somehow, and I mean,
it's true.
Yeah, but it took way too long.
But we're people pleasers, right?
Yeah, but I mean, and it's like extra people pleasy in a relationship, which like, ugh.
When something doesn't work for you, do you ever like go the other direction too hard, and then suddenly now you're the commanding one?
I mean, for some things, I don't think for that as much. I mean, maybe at some points I feel like I was on a pendulum for a while. So it was like either it was all what they wanted because I like idealized the person and I was like, yeah, whatever they want, that makes sense. If I thought they were like smarter than me or better than me and somehow, and I like had to earn their love. And then there was the other way where I was like, I'm way out of their league. So I'm just gonna be myself. But I never liked them enough to really like be dating them. And
Right.
now
So then there
I
was
would never
always like a
date someone like that.
you need a
There's all
partner, basically.
I needed a partner. I mean, I just needed to stop feeling like there had to be an imbalance. I don't know.
Right. The
Like
power imbalance.
it's not really about like the power whatever.
Isn't it though? No.
Well, it doesn't need to be, because
Can
really,
can you win a relationship?
well, no, even when by like some kind of, I guess that's an obvious, oh, no, you can't win in a relationship. No, like even if you think that like you won, whatever that means, like you came out the winner in some way, like none of that does anything. It's stupid. Like, what is there a tally somewhere? Is someone keeping track? Is there?
Yes,
No.
I'm keeping track.
Are you
No, I'm
keeping
just
track?
kidding.
Okay.
Going back also to like prioritizing friends over, or relationships. I
Yeah.
remember like that fourth girlfriend at the time. This is when I finally started to grow a backbone a little bit. Because I remember she broke up with me once for 6 days in the middle of our relationship, just for 6 days. But like her reasoning at the time was, I feel like you love your best friend more than you love me.
Well, that's stupid.
Yeah.
I mean, sorry, that was very dismissive. Like, no, but that is actually a real thing. People are jealous of, other.
And so I remember thinking at the time, like, I've been dating you for like a few months and he's my best friend. Like, this is like, I was like, I don't know what to say. Like, we have a certain relationship that's not going away. But there are things I do with you that I don't do with him. Like, like, I was like, fine. At the time, I remember thinking like, if this is the hill that we die on, that I die on, like, okay, I'm going to stand up for this belief that I have, that it's important that I still prioritize. When I say prioritize, I don't mean like put your best friend before your relationship, but I just mean like to also still hold that up as one of the things that really matters, that I value. And so I was like, I'm not going to devalue my friendship for this relationship. That's not what I'm going to do. So I remember thinking, fine. And I remember for like 6 days feeling like, good. If this is why I let this relationship go, then fuck it, So, and then 6 days later, she was like, never mind, and she came back.
Well,
and I remember thinking like, oh, wow, I have some power here and I can still stand my ground. And, clearly saying no somewhere doesn't. Although the fact that it did actually end a relationship for 6 days, I've always felt you shouldn't use the relationship against somebody.
Yeah, you shouldn't be holding it hostage.
Like that's dangerous. Like you should feel free to disagree and have a different opinion without thinking the whole thing is going to collapse just because of that.
For sure.
Because that could be that could be kind of abusive. I mean, if you hold that against people, like whole relationship against them.
It's definitely toxic. At least I don't know if I would
toxic. Maybe toxic is better, because to say that's abusive is adding a maliciousness in there that might not be.
Yeah, I would say it's more likely toxic also, just because I think it's very normalized, but that doesn't mean it's okay.
Yeah, but on the flip side, do you believe that your partner should be like your best friend?
I mean, people say that a lot. I think it's hard not to have that kind of happen, but at the same time, ideally you're not neglecting all your other relationships. So, it's like what you were saying with was it you who said like friendships are like plants that you have to water?
I might have said that. I don't know.
Something like that. So it's like you keep watering all of them. You don't just pour all the water in the one plant and be like, sorry, other plants, I guess you're just going to die. Like, that's not a great.
But do you feel like there's a limited amount of water that you have and you have to,
For me, there's kind of a limited amount of water. Like, how much time can I spend with other people?
So there is technically a limited amount, but is it as limited as people always think?
I mean, okay, I would say like ideally your partner can be your best friend, because they're the one you're going to like travel with, like you're going to do more things with them. So that is kind of an ideal situation still. If you have to do all those things with someone, not have to, if you're choosing to do all those things with someone, hopefully you get along with them well enough to feel that they are your best friends. Whether or not that's true, I mean, I would just say like the nature of a romantic relationship is so different from a pure friendship that it's hard to really say that they're your best friend when if the relationship ended, it's unlikely that you would stay such close friends. It's extremely unlikely,
Right.
right?
Well, I
So
guess
can you really
that
call
also
them a best friend?
depends. I mean, maybe during that time, but I think sometimes afterwards, if something ends, it's the pain of that ending
Yeah, for sure.
it makes it hard to do that, right? But like,
Right.
it also depends. Like, do you start when you start a relationship? Are you friends already? You know, like that
Mm.
could make a huge difference, right?
Oh yeah, that's a whole other thing. Yeah. Have you had experiences with that? Being friends with someone first?
I mean, for me, it's a little, you know, I think about it. I don't think any of my relationships I was like friends first and then got into the relationship.
Mm.
I could be. I'm worried I'm like wrong and someone's listening and going, "What are you talking about?" But like,
Yeah.
I think for the most part,
Well, you've had so many,
if
it's
it
easy to
was,
forget sometimes. Yeah.
oh wow, okay,
Right?
it's not that many. Um, uh, basically, I mean, yeah, generally, I think those have been somewhat separate things in my life, and
Mm.
it's not like I purposely made that decision. I don't think it's just that it generally didn't happen that way. But then I would say for at least probably half of my past relationships, I'm still friends
Right.
to varying degrees. Sometimes it's just
Friends
amicable
afterwards. You were friends
friends
after.
afterwards.
Yes.
Yeah. So and sometimes if I'm honest, like sometimes you realize, oh my God, we would have been just better as friends. We started
Yeah,
this thing as in a
for sure.
relationship, but what if we just went the friend route? This because the truth is friendships can last forever. And yeah,
Mm.
relationships can last forever, but generally in our society, you get like,
Unlikely.
yeah, they're not, maybe unlikely, but also like you're supposed to have one, and maybe that one lasts forever. And if it doesn't, then it's like, I hate you. Not really, but it could be. But friends, that's why I've always prioritized friendships in the sense that you can have an unlimited number of friends
Yeah.
and they can last forever. And there's not that, I mean, yeah, they can't reach the same types of heights that a romantic relationship could reach, or the same intimacy, we'll say.
Hmm.
But that aside, like that's something worthwhile to invest your time and energy into. So
Yeah.
that's why, for me at least, I prioritize that. Not that relationships don't matter. I mean, I'm in one right now. It matters a lot, but
Uh,
I'm not gonna again like ditch friendships because put it this way as well. I think that when you do have like a lot of different plants that you're watering and not just one, I'll use your analogy, right?
it wasn't a great analogy.
Whatever. When you do have a lot of, I used to say pillars, right? Pillars of
Hmm.
support. That's not, I mean, some people look at it like, oh, you're like, they'll get jealous, like, oh, you're putting time and effort into somebody else. But that can be a really good thing, even for the other person, because that means you're not putting everything on them.
Yeah.
I think in a relationship, you like when you do that, that can be really intense and not in a good way. That you put all of your problems and all of your just everything you throw on one person. It can be a
Right.
lot,
For
you
sure.
know?
Yeah.
And that can lead to some toxicity sometimes. But when you have other pillars of support, it creates a better balance, I think, in your life. There are
Yeah.
some things that are meant for just you and your friends, and other things that are meant for you and your relationship.
For sure.
So I don't know.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm walking through a minefield there, but
Oh, really? No, I think it was good. Oh,
yeah.
yeah. I was gonna say, like, in terms of the friendship versus romantic relationship stuff, I think part of my problem is I used to think of relationships as kind of upgraded friendships or like a leveled up friendship. It's like,
Mm,
ooh, if you have a good enough friendship and it's someone you're also attracted to, you should just boom, level it up to
level up.
relationship. Which like now I'm like, that makes no sense because a lot of the time you're probably not compatible. Just because you're compatible as friends doesn't mean you're compatible as a
Hmm.
um
Why would you sometimes be compatible as friends but not in a relationship?
I don't know, maybe they smell bad or something. Like I can handle that in a friend, but
Because they smell bad. That's true though. Like that's I think that's like a worthwhile like
that was
question
a
because
dumb
people
example,
sometimes
but
just
yeah.
you know
But I think it's more like, I mean, there are a million
it's not that
reasons to,
simple.
yeah, there's
Yeah.
so many reasons that relationships don't work. I think there are less reasons why a friendship can't work, especially like, because a friendship, like how much it can be like a once a year friendship, that's fine. Or you can just talk to them on the, like, there's so many varying levels. Whereas like relationship, you have to do a bunch of stuff for a romantic relationship that like maybe there's so many
Hmm.
possibilities for things to not work, for compatibility to not be there. So
Right.
I guess it's,
You can
yeah.
like if somebody has an issue as a friend, you can just be like, all right, I'll see you
Yeah.
tomorrow. But like if you're in a
Yeah.
relationship, it's like you can't necessarily do that. You have to
Mm.
be there all the time. You have to be a part of that.
I mean, and you want to like So
Yeah.
it's like
That
hopefully
too.
you like them enough that you want to be with them enough. And I think, especially in my old age, I'm getting more particular about the kind, like
Your old age, okay.
my old age, in my elderly years. No, I think when you enjoy being alone, it's good in a way because it makes you less afraid of like I no longer am afraid of like relationships ending because I'm like, ooh, I'll just be alone, and that's fine.
Oh,
But it's
because you
also
like being
I
so do you
like
think
being
people
alone.
jump into relationships then just because they don't want to be alone?
Yeah, for sure. It's super, and I mean, it's not like I haven't been at that point where a lot of my self-esteem, I think a lot of people have this, where a lot of their self-esteem comes from a romantic relationship and having one. And like you
Mm,
can sometimes tell by the way that someone brings their significant other into conversations that it's like you care
yeah.
too much about the fact that you have a boyfriend or a girlfriend. Like, it does you
It's
do you think that
everything.
like gives you some sort of like, what do you want to medal? Like, do you are you saying it because now you get to show that like someone finds you attractive? Because like, I mean,
So they put a lot of their security
yeah,
into that. Like
yeah,
if
yeah.
somebody else, if they have a romantic partner that they
Hmm.
have with them or think something of them, like, see, I am deserving of love,
Exactly,
instead of saying,
exactly.
hey, I'm deserving of love anyway.
Yeah, exactly. And people have made comments before like, "Oh, how are you single?" Which is like, maybe you mean something nice by that,
They
but
mean
also,
something nice, but yeah,
but
there's
there's a
something else
thing
that
behind it that's like, "Oh, there's nothing horribly wrong with you," or not that I can see right now. So, what's the deal? Why haven't you done what you're supposed to do?
it's a societal thing too. Like, are we all meant to just
For
like
sure.
pair up? And I mean, it's biological too, let's be
I
honest, to
mean,
some degree.
yeah, I don't know. Like, some people might be. I definitely think being alone is preferable to being in.
A crappy relationship.
For sure. 100%. But
Absolutely.
that is not, I don't think that's a common, even if people would admit that, I don't think it's a common thing that people do. Like,
Well, it's so
it's
hard to
so
get,
easy to
like, if
fall
you're in a
into.
bad relationship, I feel like also societally, like, getting out of a bad relationship is not easy either. Have you ever had a friend say to you, like, oh, I don't know if, this relationship's working out, we're thinking about ending it. And how many friends jump in and go, no, you guys are so great. I hope you guys,
Yeah.
like, what are you doing?
Yeah. I hate
There,
that.
do you know how hard it is? And yet, every society is like pressuring you guys to stay together because it makes them feel comfortable.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I,
Like, it's not.
for sure. I have some experiences with that as well. Like, I mean, I was in a relationship for a while and it wasn't, sometimes it's not something horrible, right? Like, sometimes it's just all these little things or like this nagging uncertainty or this, what was that sound? Did you hear that?
Oh, there's a plane.
Oh, okay.
This is LA. We got a lot
Yeah.
of planes.
Right, right. It's kind of like a gut feeling sometimes, or just this like maybe just unhappiness. And I remember I was quite a few years into a relationship and I brought it up to someone that I trust, a close person, and she was like, "Oh, well, it's that's so common, that's people say like, the 7 year itch or whatever, like when you want to get out of
Yeah,
it,
yeah, yeah.
even though it hadn't even been 7 years." But I was like, so there's also like a term for this thing that suggests that, oh, it's just a thing that happens when you're
Yeah.
far into a
Sometimes
relationship.
sometimes relationships get terrible. That's just how it is. Like,
Yeah,
just
like, but you should stay with it. And I mean, uh, she didn't exactly say like you should stay, but it was also like that was kind of implied. And it was also just like, well, but so many things are good. And it was like, yeah, but I mean, I mean, clearly, I'm not with that person.
you got
So
out of it.
clearly it ended. But I mean, when I did end that, everyone was, not everyone, one of my friends at least was like, so you just have to, and this was the best advice I got was, you have to decide what you want. Like, forget everything else. What do you actually
Yeah.
want? And I remember I had to picture, this is how hard it is sometimes to figure out what, at least for me, what I want. I had to picture that I was in a lucid dream. So like, when you're dreaming, uh,
Yeah.
but you can control the dream. So like for me, that
Those are
was a
the
way,
best.
it's the best. So that was my
Like when you're
way of
flying.
separating. Exactly. That was my way of separating how everyone else would feel. So I don't have to think about how anyone else is going to react to this, how anyone else will feel about it. It's just me in this world. And then I was like, oh, of course I would leave. if that were the case, I definitely would. So I was like, there you go. That's what you want. Dum dum. Like, how did it take you so long to get to figure out what you actually want? But I mean, sometimes it's so hard because you think about so many things. You think about, I remember thinking about like his family. I was like, oh, they're gonna hate me. They're gonna this and this, or like, or about the person. Obviously, that's like the number one thing. Just all of this stuff. You just
all these other things that are
all these
outside of just you guys.
exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
There was like a comedian. I think it might have been Dane Cook or something way back when he said this.
Ugh.
It was whatever. I liked him when I was a kid.
That's fine.
I will not
I gave the
apologize for it.
requisite for
I think he was saying something about like girls, but it could be for anybody. But he was like, girls will give like the most ridiculous excuses to like stay in a relationship that is clearly terrible. And it's like, oh my God, Sarah, I can't just leave him. Okay. Like my CDs are in his truck.
Yeah, that actually happens for sure. Yeah.
But it's true. Like, well, because ending a relationship is not just ending a relationship, it's ending a way of life that you've been living. It's so difficult on so many levels that, I mean, we're talking about, I guess, when you should end one, when you haven't. You mean that's a whole thing into itself. But then there's consequences too. Like horrible heartbreak is something that you know would be coming as well.
Yeah.
So
people will say it's better to be the dumper than the dumpy. I don't think that's true. I think I would rather be dumped than have to dump someone. Because like,
sounds like you haven't been as horribly dumped.
I don't think that's true. No, I don't think that's true. I mean, maybe that is true. I just feel like.
Are you usually, when relationships end for you, has you usually been the one to end them or not?
Usually, I don't know. I'd have to like count.
It's a percentage.
It's I'm trying to think. I mean, there's a bit of both in there.
And it's complicated sometimes too. It's not that
yeah,
simple,
and it's complicated
right?
sometimes. I mean, my like, I just want to say, yeah, of course, I was the one to end most of them, but I'm sure there are some, like, I'm just forgetting any.
Why did you have so many relationships, Aya?
No.
Oh my God, how many relationships have you had?
I don't want to do a podcast anymore. More than 2, less than 40. It's a nice range
that's
for
certainly,
you.
there's a range.
Yeah, a normal amount.
Yeah, 39. Gotcha. So moving.
Yeah, probably the same number as you. How many have you been in?
What was the other question I asked? Yeah, moving past this.
Oh, you're just gonna not even answer my questions.
No.
Okay.
Here's the thing. I'm asking you why. I'm asking about like ending them or not. Like for me, at least, it was like
right.
I feel like it's like half and half for me.
Yeah, for all I know, it could be half and half.
Like when you feel heartbreak, it's not. Do you usually feel it when you're the one ending it yourself? I feel like it's not as intense. And to me, like intense heartbreak is some of the. I mean, people get messed up by heartbreak for years. We make movies about this stuff. It's like a typical thing that happens, and yet nobody really knows how to deal with it. It's like you just need time.
Honestly, I think it's the worst thing you'll ever. Okay, I shouldn't say that, but because I'm sure there are worse things, but I guess so far in life, those are probably some of the most common worst things that
super common and terrible that people feel.
Horribly terrible. It feels like the world is over.
The worst thing? But why does it feel that way?
Because all of the chemicals in your brain were all like boop, 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 and then after it's like and then it's like and that's
it's a perfect explanation. Aya, you make me laugh. Yeah, in other words, I think to translate, I mean, like, but if we get into like the nitty gritty of it, like again, we're getting back to, if you invest all of your time and effort and energy and love, and again, we're talking about when we say love, it's not just like a feeling, it's everything you're doing, right? It's everything you're doing for somebody else. And you've done all this thing, and then you have this moment of like, was it all for nothing? If it didn't lead to this relationship that I'm going to be in for the rest of my life, and you get left with this feeling of like, did I invest all my time wrongly?
That doesn't feel like I don't think there's any logical explanation that makes it, that even comes close to describing the feeling. like we can walk around being like, oh, maybe it hurts because of this and this and this, but it's like,
You don't think
I,
so? Can't describe it? Like,
I don't think
to me,
it's
it's the
this.
to me, it's pretty clear. It's like, it's that and it's expectations. It's, you had this hope of what something could be. And it was
Uh-huh.
so, and not just like a hope, but an
Yeah.
expectation even. And then it wasn't that. And everything it's like investing all of your money into something and then losing all of it. Like
Yes,
it's
in a way.
crushing.
Yeah, it's crushing. I would agree that I feel like it's almost like the world stops looking the same anymore either. Like everything is
Yeah, and
just different.
especially it's like you
And
were
like,
imagine investing all your money into something, and it's like, it's like, hey, if you do this, you're promised to get all this stuff in return. You're gonna have this house, you're gonna have this, you're gonna have that, and then you invest all that money and you get nothing in return,
mm,
and not only money, but you've lost time, which you can't get back.
yeah, if you add, okay, that plus like you're living on the street and you no longer have a home. There, that's kind of
Hmm.
the feeling.
Sure, it's like that
I
too. It's what
actually,
it feels like.
for probably one of my first serious breakups, I went to like one of the, university people that talk to you. I
The
don't know if it's
university people, yeah.
I don't know if it's technically a therapist or not, but
Is it
yeah,
like
like
a
a
university
counselor.
guidance person or whatever?
It was a counselor. Like she had
Oh,
a
counselor.
box of
Okay.
tissues that I used quite a bit.
Did you have a counselor voice? Did she
Oh, for
speak like,
sure.
"Oh, it's
Yeah.
okay.
Oh, yes. Total
Take as
therapy
much time as
voice.
you need. Here's a
Yeah.
tissue."
Yeah. Okay, that's so okay. Tell me more about that. Okay.
And how did that make you
And
feel?
and how that, yeah. And one of the things she told me that I think the only thing I remember her telling me was that a breakup can feel like a death. It like you deal
Mm-hmm.
with that
You grieve.
in many of the same ways. And I was like, oh, and I think I suddenly felt what's word not justified, like validated because I had felt I not only felt bad about the thing that had happened, but I felt bad that I felt so bad about it. It was
Yeah, you're
like,
like,
what
why is
kind
it
of a
affecting me
person
like
am
this?
I that
I'm a
I yeah,
strong person. Wait,
yeah,
this
like
goes back
what's
to you also feeling insecure in your when you cry, like, because you
yeah,
want
I
to
hate
have that control.
yeah. I don't
You don't
like
want
being
that person to
seen
have
as
power over you.
yeah, I was thinking about that more. And I also think it's partly like, because you said something like, oh, but when you're a girl, it's supposed to be like, at least it's more accepted that you cry and stuff. But I mean, I was the youngest and the only girl in like, I had two brothers. And I think I always wanted to be, I felt like I needed to be taken seriously. So like for me to be typically or like
Really? Because
stereotypically
you were
female,
the oldest person in our class.
yeah. Oh, actually, about that too. My mom was saying, like, because she listened to our first episode and she was like, I think I know why because you were a bit more like of a leader type. She, of course, said it in a nice way because she doesn't want to say that
Yeah.
I was a bossy jerk. But she was like, oh, it's probably because at home, like, you were always bossed around by your brothers. So then at school, like, you took on the leadership role. And I was like, okay, yeah, that makes sense. And I mean, that kind of goes into a lot of stuff like, okay, I don't like to
Mm.
be the weak one in either by
Oh my
crying or
gosh,
by
that's
being the,
interesting. So you always felt like powerless in some ways, or you needed to like show,
um,
like
I
prove
also,
something?
yeah, I didn't want to be like dismissed as a silly girl. Not that I was at home necessarily, but when you're the youngest by a lot, like my older brother was 5 years older, my oldest brother is 10 years older. When you're the
Hmm.
youngest by a lot and like the girl and kind of already the sensitive one, it starts to feel frustrating to be the weak one. I don't know, like
Right. So
emotionally
if
weak
a
or
relationship like ended or something, then that, like, you just were like, I don't want to be the weak person who can't
yeah,
take that.
exactly. I was like, how can I don't want to be a person who is affected by those things.
Even though it's so human to be affected by those
But
things,
I didn't
right?
even know that. Like people don't really. I know like it's in movies and stuff, but I don't know. Like until that girl told me, like it's like a death. I remember feeling like that changed the way I looked at it. I was like, oh, this is a real reason to feel shitty.
Well, what's interesting is I feel like I'm questioning you as if like, what are you talking about? But the truth is, like, until I guess my previous relationship, before that, I hadn't experienced heartbreak at like a high level.
Yeah.
I don't think. It's not to say I didn't feel bad when relationships ended, but I remember thinking I'm pretty good at this. Like,
Mm,
I can take breakups. Like, I have a
yeah.
strong mind. I can think my way out of these situations, and I always thought like other people are just being like, if you just think a certain way,
Yeah.
you can be okay. Or if you just here's the checklist of things to do, and you'll be fine.
Yeah.
It was so practical and pragmatic about it.
Yeah.
And then I experienced a much bigger heartbreak because I guess in my previous relationship, I put more than I'd ever put into a relationship because for one of the first times I really saw this future, this possible future.
You put all your hope in there.
I put everything. I remember thinking, "Aha, this is the one." And you know what? I bided my time and I waited and I thought I wasn't rushing into anything like other people. I really figured this out, and I'd made the decision in my head, like this is where I'm going to put all my energy, right? And let and finally I felt like I could be free also with my feelings. I've been known in the past to sometimes be a little emotionally, I guess, distant. I guess because once you start giving that, that's something that can lead to heartbreak if it goes away,
For
right?
sure. Yeah.
So I did that, and then this thing ended for a variety of reasons. Some circumstantial, others. Anyway, whatever. It ended, and oh my god, I remember thinking like, wow, I thought I'd figured things out. Other people, they didn't know what they were talking about, but I figured it out, and nope, I didn't figure it out just like everybody else. And I went through that heartbreak that I heard so much about, that I'd watched so many movies about. And I remember like telling my best friend this, like calling him up at home, and I was like not doing well as I was explaining this to him. And he was like, dude, I know like you're going through a lot right now and this is like super shitty and you feel terrible, but like I just want to say I am so happy as well, because I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, no, I'm just so happy to find out for like with certainty that you're not a psychopath.
Oh.
And I'm like, what? He's like, no, it's just like you're feeling things. This is what you're supposed to feel. But like before, when my relationship ended with that other girl who like had cheated on me and everything, I remember like calling up my best friend at the time and saying to him, hey dude, guess what? I got cheated on. He's like, what? I'm like, yeah, I got cheated on. I'm a victim of cheating.
Oh, you were like excited to have experienced that, or what?
Yeah, exactly. He was like, dude, that's terrible. I'm like, oh yeah, for sure. But like, dude, I never thought, I've always heard about people getting cheated on, and now I am an actual victim of cheating. He's like, dude, like, are you okay? You sound kind of happy. I'm like, he's like, that's very weird. And I'm like, I know. I just think about it forever. I am now the victim of like, I'm the good guy forever in that relationship, and she's the bad guy forever.
That's the thing. That's the nice thing about being
the one who's cheated on. I didn't at the time think, at least my brain didn't go to this area that was like, oh my God, am I not good enough? But anyway, my brain didn't go there, thankfully. But I remember being like, oh, dude, I got to go call her up and make her feel like shit. Hold on. And then like hung up. Actually, I forgave her. I mean, like I said, we're friends today. And, we were both immature in different ways at that time. But yeah. So my friend tells me, he's like, hey, dude, you're not a psychopath. That's good.
I mean, it sounds like you had like an avoidant attachment style. Like if you like avoidant attachment styles, you probably weren't like you had a very independent, like untouchable sort of.
It's interesting. I don't know if that's because attachment style wise, we can get into that in a second, but I like did the thing. I'm a pretty secure attachment, actually.
You're secure now.
I don't think avoidant.
But were you before?
I don't think I was avoidant. I think I was just, I don't know exactly. I'm not sure, because I don't think I ever came off like I was. I think I was just really good at compartmentalizing my emotions in many ways. But I was always very communicative, and I still hold to this day that communication is so important. It's not just so
I don't think
important,
anyone's
it's the
gonna
most
argue
important
with
thing.
that. That's what everybody says.
So, but I think I think just emotionally, I stopped. I just kind of let things happen more now. My brain doesn't stop it right at the moment something's going to happen and then like go through a bunch of hoops. Like it just happens more now. It made me, in fact, that last relationship, actually, that heartbreak really opened me up. It made me a lot more sensitive.
Yeah. I think heartbreak can do a lot of things, good or bad. Like sometimes it kind of gets you to close off a lot more, but sometimes it kind of forces, like, I mean, it's like any trauma, I guess. I don't know if I want to use that word for it, but like, it's like any intense emotional thing that you go through. It can help you kind of open up. It can help you become more mature, or it can kind of,
or it can go the other direction.
Yeah, you can kind of get a lot of extra neuroses for it. So
I mean, you get like a PTSD of sorts because you think about it. This is how people often respond, right? Oh my God, I can't watch this movie again. Or if I hear this song, it reminds me of them. If I eat this food, it reminds me of them. I remember once in one of my relationships, I remember this is again very early on. I bought like the nicest flowers. I thought I'm going to buy the nicest, biggest bouquet of flowers and she's going to be so impressed. And I went to the store and I got 24 roses. And those roses were they had like 2 colors each. Ooh. And I got like 2 sets of those. So there was like 4 colors in there. And I thought, wow, these are beautiful. Throw some baby's breath and some greens and that shit in there. And then I thought, oh, I'm going to top off these roses with an orchid right in the middle. Ooh. A beautiful orchid. And
I understand why you're in debt now. Yeah. That was rude. Oh my God.
And I blew all my money on these roses. Anyway, this is a long time ago. Anyways, I remember I had like a skip in my step. I like showed up at her door. Again, this was my girlfriend at the time. And she opens the door and I'm like, hey, and I'm showing the roses. And she goes, oh, hi. I'm like, I got you flowers. And she's like, oh, thanks. Yeah, they're really.
Why? What was going on?
Really, really, really great. And I'm like, what's going on? She's like, no, they're great. Thank you so much. I'm like, these are the best fucking flowers you've ever seen in your life. What is going on? Like, these are objectively the nicest flowers. Like, what are you saying here? She's like, it's just no, it's fine. I'm like, tell me. I had to like get it out of her, and she goes, it's just, I don't like orchids.
Oh my God! What? That's so stupid.
and I'm like, what? Did you just leave?
I'm really thirsty, and this yogurt is not doing it. I'm sorry. I thought maybe you wouldn't notice. Can you still hear me?
I can hear you, but I just watched you get up and leave. I was like, I guess this story isn't that interesting.
It was great. I didn't want to start coughing, so I was like running for water.
No, good. Drink up. Be healthy. Don't cough. Don't
leave? I'm here. No, that was a great story. I loved it.
Yeah, I guess you also don't like orchids. No, but she said orchids. The point is she said
they're so pretty.
I remember thinking like, well, what do you mean you don't like orchids? Like, first of all, there's more than just an orchid here. There was a whole bunch of 24 roses.
Yeah.
But she's like, it's just my ex-boyfriend bought me orchids. And I'm like. Okay. I remember thinking, I'm like, so? Like, he breathed air too. Are you breathing air now? Like you're going to have some of the same things appear in your life. But I understand, like, you can attach things. But it's also, it gets to a point where, because you experienced life with them, everything reminds you of them for a while. And that's why that heartbreak is so, it's why it can last so long. You have to basically build whole new experiences again without that person in your life so that you can put that into your past. So that just becomes a memory instead of like on your mind every single time you interact with the world.
Yeah, really what she should have done is like really embraced the fact that you like the orchid now so that she could like rewire. Because like, her brain was filled with like pathways of orchid and that guy. But she needs to like
I remember thinking, like, what did he do? Did he like beat you with orchids? Like, what did he what did he do? She's like, no. She's like, it's just we broke up. And I'm like,
oh my God.
Okay, so that now you can't like orchids? Like
so that really
I understand if like
is that
that's actually the same one where I got cheated. I'm really like crapping on this
so whatever
relationship.
Maybe
but that's
because I thought it was gonna be like, oh, you showed up and she had like the other dude there or something like that. And I was like, oh
no.
And then you would have a problem with orchids. Now you can't look at orchids without thinking about this stuff.
To be honest, that relationship taught me so much about what I wanted and what I liked also, and about standing up for myself. So I learned a lot. And you know what? Yes, we were both immature in many ways at that time. We're both more mature today. That's why we're friends today. And I know it sounds weird to hear these stories and be like, you're friends with that girl? Yeah, of course.
I'm friends with like
we were young.
95% of my, maybe like 97% of my, and I mean by friends, I mean like on good terms. Not
that's good.
Friends, probably friends, like maybe 50%. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, it can be hard to be friends, I think, sometimes because somebody is often, if the person who got broken up with often can feel really sore. I don't know. I think that's one of the reasons. He feels like you're not on the same level playing field anymore.
Right. And I mean, there's also the worry, like I have had a few times where like I stay friends, but then like randomly just like at some points, it's hard to
Sometimes
tell
the
if
line
like
gets blurred.
exactly. And it's like, are you doing this because you think so, like what's happening here? Like, you know that we're not what's happening. I mean, and I'm not saying I'm always the everybody like maybe I'm sure I was on the other side of that too, but like it's just hard sometimes if you're like
Yeah,
very
I mean,
close
it's just
friends
because
to be in that.
yeah, it's hard to when the line gets. I think I sometimes liken this to like the line of a road, like on a
Mm,
street. When you start off, it's like a solid yellow line, right?
right.
But then after you've been in a relationship, that line, even if you separate after that, the line is now like a dotted line.
That's great. That's a really good
And
way
you
of looking
can,
at it. Oh, I like that
yeah,
analogy.
that's right.
Yeah.
I worked that into like an old movie, so I'm just stealing from myself.
Oh,
But
so you're stealing from your own. Do you have to cite
yeah,
your
but it's
own
still
work?
that is my own thoughts, so it's not some other
Yeah.
movie. Like you keep
Okay.
accusing me of plagiarizing.
Do you think
But
so? Do you think that those experiences can like affect how we approach new relationships, like especially negative
oh, so
experience, right?
yeah, I mean, that's the thing. We take our whether we like to or not, we take our past relationships into our new one
For
way or
sure.
another. Actually, I was just talking to my girlfriend about this the other day. She just moved to a new place and I was helping her
Mm,
move. And I think like caused like a PTSD in me to helping one of my past girlfriends move.
mm.
And I think that move was like the beginning of the end for us.
Oh,
Right. So now, like helping her move, I'm thinking, like, oh, everything's going to get bad. Like, I didn't actually
right.
think that, but I think, like, in my
You
core,
feel
I was
it.
having some
Yeah.
of these feelings and I just had to like talk it out. But then what I was really saying was, oh, this move was great. Then she's like, what do you mean it was great? It was a terrible, like,
And you're
moving
like, but
sucks.
it
I'm like,
didn't end
no,
as
I
horribly
don't.
as I expected it to.
I mean, no, I mean, it's just a normal sucky move, but, you know,
Yeah.
it's not that kind of, it's just a normal move, like a move should be, right?
Mm,
But then we got into talking about how we bring our past relationships
mm,
into our current relationship. But then I
yeah.
also thought about it and I remember bringing up, I also learned a lot of things in my past relationships that I brought in. Like I communicate a lot better because
Yeah.
I learned to communicate in past relationships. And I'm like, aren't you glad that I'm not having to learn this to the same
Yeah.
degree with you?
Right. No, I
So,
mean, yeah, there's good and bad to that because a lot of the time it depends on the person, right? Like, I mean, and like how self-aware you are and how willing you are to face those things because they will come up. Like, I mean, if I start seeing someone that I really like, now I realize like there's a lot of anxiety that comes up with it. And I shouldn't say anxiety because I know that gets thrown around a lot. It's exciting in a way, but what used to be exciting is, okay, I'm just going to use anxiety inducing now because
mhm.
it's like jumping off a cliff into a beautiful pond and you're like, oh, this is so fun. And when you're younger you're like, wee, and you jump and you're kind of swimming around for a bit and eventually when you hit the, I don't know, you get injured somehow. This analogy is falling apart.
Keep going.
It's
You're
kind
doing it. You're
all
getting
right.
there.
Let's say you have unlimited lives. It's like a Groundhog Day
Get
situation.
that. I play video games. All right, let's go.
Yeah, exactly. It's like in a video game. And you jump off a cliff, and the first time you do it, you fall, but you don't realize that you're going to get super hurt and you don't even know what it's going to feel like. So when you jump, you're like, wee. But later, every time you do this again, you're like, oh man, this is going to hurt so bad. And like
Hmm.
anytime it feels like you're about to fall off that, which can be super fun, like that feeling is like, wee, but it's also like,
Yeah,
oh my God.
I'm
So
gonna crash.
I'm going to crash.
I think that's a common feeling, and it's true that you do bring that with you sometimes. And it's kind of up to us not to get totally jaded by our past relationships, but we know about relationships from the relationships we've been in, right?
Yeah, no, it's true.
And so that's
There's a
kind
lot you
of
learn.
it's a double-edged sword there, right?
Yes, that's
Um,
exactly it. I wonder about people who've only been in, like, sometimes it works out great and good for them, but sometimes I'm like, did you learn all the stuff you needed to learn? Like, are you, I don't know, like, I feel like I've reached a level of, let's call it maturity or a level of understanding that I never would have
yeah.
reached if I hadn't gone through the shittiness of like multiple failed relationships. Like, if I
But
hadn't gone through
maybe
that, who would I be? I would be a totally different person.
yeah,
Um,
but maybe you don't know what you don't know. So
Yeah, but
like
also like how much
the
empathy
ignorance
like
is
it's
bliss.
like what you were saying about how you like that relationship that when you really like actually felt bad about a breakup, that
Mhm.
makes me like you more like as a person. That was probably when we really started becoming
Because
friends.
because I'm not a psychopath.
Yeah, no, I never thought you were a psychopath, but I think it adds really like a humbleness to a person if they really if they go through it well, then it adds a humility, not a humbleness. It adds like a humility to you, like, and a wisdom if they come out of it with like having really thought about what it was that happened.
We hear about these like people that were like they got together in high school and then they like got married and then they lived all their life together for like 80 years. We always look at that and go, wow, success.
I don't.
You know, and then you don't look at that. You think, wow, they missed out on so many experiences.
Kind of. I don't know. No, I don't want to say that to anyone out there.
You know, I mean,
I'm
honestly,
just jealous. That sounds wonderful. I'm sure that's
honestly, I don't think it either way. I think you're going to miss out on experiences either way. You're going to miss out on what they got to have, and they're going to miss out on what you got to have. I always felt it's kind of like, you know, if you get into a relationship and you're going to get married, there's that, and you're going to stay with someone for the rest of your life. People have that fear of, what am I not going to be able to do again? There's certain, I don't know what kind of podcast we are. We're not X-rated, so I won't get into specifics. But if you're going to be with one person for the rest of your life, then you might be, in a sense, sacrificing something you otherwise could be doing. But on the other hand, you're gaining a certain intimacy that you otherwise wouldn't have had. So in everything that you do, it feels kind of like you're sacrificing something and gaining something else, because you can't have it all.
I agree. Yeah, I think that's actually a really good way of looking at it, because like the people who, you know, have been together since high school, assuming if they're in a happy relationship, like that's, I mean, they're reaching like a level of depth that, can you hear the cat right now?
I can hear the cat. Yeah, it's cute.
Oh my God. Those people reach a depth that, I mean, they've been working on for so many years. They have so many shared experiences. I mean, that's
it's something to be envious
so
of,
lovely
in a way.
Right? Yeah. I mean, I would love to have had that. Like, obviously that's not going to happen, but like,
but I mean, you're a writer, right? You're a writer. And I'm a writer. Yeah, right? Say it out loud. Say, I'm a writer.
I'm a writer. And you're a writer.
You can't even say it straightforwardly. So, you know, we, you know, as artists, as writers, the truth is painful experiences are fuel.
It's true.
For our work. I always think like, oh, people.
Although enough people have written about that stuff. But yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
I mean, not okay, but those specific instances, maybe. But that being said, pain is fuel, tragedy is fuel. It doesn't mean you should go through all these things, but it's just a fact that I think it's a good thing, actually. We can use that when it comes. We can express ourselves in newer ways, right?
Yeah.
So I always think sometimes, I mean, I get the sense from you as well that people, I don't know, people who haven't had those certain painful experiences or haven't had to go through that, we feel like they're a bit naive, right?
Yeah, I feel like they have a limited worldview in some ways, or a limited like life. Mm-hmm. I mean, again, limited in some ways, probably deeper in others, but like, yeah.
And maybe it's like Pierce said when he came on our episode, you know, maybe the ignorance is bliss there is not, not necessarily the worst thing.
It's so
but
hard.
You can't go back, you know?
No, and I think like once you're to me, it seems like I wouldn't be happy. There is like, ignorance would not be bliss. I don't know. I feel like before I knew things, I always felt like an unhappiness without any understanding of why. Whereas now it's like, oh, there are all these good reasons why.
So you briefly touched on attachment styles. What are you? What's your attachment style?
I don't want to say. Listen, I've read a few books about it, so I've looked at the list of so the way to become secure is to do the things that secure people do. So I would say that now I'm probably on the verge of a secure person.
Oh, so you're saying you're not a secure personality?
I would say I'm basically at a secure attachment style now. But I would say up until very recently, up until I read those books about attachment style, I was.
So what are the different types? What are they?
I mean, people have different names for them. Sometimes there's so secure there, which is that you can openly communicate about your needs and wants. You're comfortable in intimacy or alone, blah, blah, blah. Yippee-dee-doo-dah, they're well adjusted. Good for them. And then there's anxious, which is like they need constant reassurance. They crave intimacy, but like always need to be reassured that they're everything's
pretty
okay.
Self-explanatory too.
Yeah, I guess it is. There's avoidance. There's kind of there's kind of two kinds of avoidant. It depends. Again, it depends on the resource.
There's like fearful avoidant, right?
Exactly. There's dismissive avoidant. exactly, or fearful avoidant. And I guess those are fairly self-explanatory in a way. And yeah, fearful avoidant is also sometimes known as anxious avoidant. And they kind of have a bit of both the anxious and the avoidant, which they say is a small percentage of people. I don't think it's that small a percentage, and I would have been that. And I probably still am a little bit, but I think I'm self-aware enough now. And like, I know people say you can't just like fix things by reading books, but I really think you can. So you just read the book and then you implement it,
and then you're better.
And then you're
I mean,
better.
none of these things are rigid, right? These are things that are
exactly.
But then, so I have a question for you then. You're saying, at least I know you're trying to get to a secure type, which, by the way, I did that test and I'm a secure type. So
good for you, buddy. Like,
I hope you're jealous.
No, I'm not.
I mean, that's me. It takes two to tango, and it doesn't mean my girlfriend is necessarily the same. So
well, secure
I have to
types
communicate.
Can be with whoever, right? Seriously though, like I am actually now. I'm looking at the way I am, and I think I'm much closer to secure.
Doing a lot better. But I have to ask.
I enjoy being an anxious avoidant in all its messy glory.
But where I have a question. Where do you think that comes from? Like, where do you think the way that you are in a relationship, where does that stem from?
So, I mean, a lot of it stems from I would say in general, from our relationship models. So that can be parental figures, that can be, other couple figures in your life. That can also just be your earlier relationships. So like maybe you entered a dating pool at your naive 17 as a secure, and you exited at, I don't know, 19, 20, and now you're because attachment styles change for like they're
right, and a single relationship can change it, right?
For sure,
you can get really anxious after a terrible relationship.
Exactly. If someone I have a friend who has had like really shitty things happen to her, and she's very high on the anxious scale
or whatever.
Yeah, but she's also self-aware, so she knows when she's being anxious, and she can kind of like rein it in and think about it and analyze. So like it there's a lot. It's not like a personality thing. It's I mean,
you talked about not having certain like friendship models when you were young, like good ones that were like, but do you feel like you had good relationship models?
So I mean, my brother and his wife are one of those couples that's been together since like, I think she met him when she was 16 and he was maybe 19. Like there was a bit of an age difference at the time, and they've been together like for years, and they have 4 kids, and like they really like, I don't know if it's a relationship model exactly, but I mean they have a very positive relationship. They always speak very highly of each other. Yeah, I mean, I met when they started dating, I was like 9, so I mean that does influence it. So yeah,
I mean, the best ones that I feel like that I always see, the best relationships, the ones that really are a model to me, is when I see the 2 people in the relationship constantly speaking highly of each other when the other one's not around.
And that's the thing.
That to me is such a big thing.
They're so supportive of each other, and like very they really do know how to work as like a team. And I mean, she's always like posting stuff on Facebook. Sometimes I'm like, it's a little too sharing. Like if it weren't about my brother, I'd be like, all right, he's not that great. But she writes like these lovely things, and I'm like, oh, he is just great, and I'm glad that you appreciate him. Like
you're like, I'm glad that you do. No,
sorry.
I'm glad that somebody does.
Yeah, no, it was more just like if she was a random person, I'd be like, all right, your husband's not that great. Like, come on, lady. But it's my oldest brother who I do think is, I mean, I think both my brothers are amazing, but like, so I'm like, oh, good. I'm glad you appreciate him, because you should. But yeah, so they speak very highly of each other, and I think it seems like a good relationship from the outside, I assume. Yeah. I would love to talk about my parents, but I'm highly aware that the entire Jewish community is listening to this now. So I don't think it's in anyone's interest for me.
We can let's talk about my
parents. What about
you,
Josh? What about you? Yeah.
Well, here's the thing. I never really thought of my parents necessarily as a model of relationships, but of course your parents are. All of our parents are. And, my mother's not around anymore, but when she was around, my parents were not like a model relationship. No. They totally, I have no trouble saying they totally should have gotten a divorce. And not only, like as a kid, that scared the crap out of me. I'm like, oh my God, my parents might get divorced. I was like, please, God, no. Yeah. And then I got older and I was like, oh my God, they totally should have. Like this was like toxic. you
I never
know?
understood the whole stay together for the kids. It's like, please get divorced. Like, you
I
think
mean,
we
your
like
kids don't
having you
want it to
yell
happen.
around here? I
I
did
mean, as
not
a
care.
kid, I didn't know any better. I wanted them to be together because they're my parents. I think, oh my God, I want this perfect family where everyone is together. And that does
Hmm.
matter to children, you know? But then as you get older, you realize, oh, like my parents also they are three-dimensional people unto themselves with thoughts and feelings, and they should be happy.
Yeah.
So if they're not happy, that should come first, or they're not going to be as good like as
Yeah.
parents. So I guess there's a fear like, could that have influenced me
Yeah.
in my relationships? And I still I wonder about that sometimes because yeah, I've had I think I communicate well in my relationships and all that. So I think already I'm better in that regard.
Yeah.
But it's like on the other hand, I'm not married with kids, like we said, right? So again, I
Hmm.
don't know if that's the be
I don't know
all
if
end
that's the
all, but
goal. I think
sometimes
for us artsy types, we like have other goals in life
yeah,
other
yeah,
than
that's right.
having like them procreating. I mean, plus the world is overpopulating. It's not like you're doing anyone any favors by procreating. That's
Look at all
like
these justifications we have to make
we don't
look at all
have
these
to.
sort
It's
of
just so easy.
we're all
Yeah.
like yeah whatever like it's cool.
I mean, I'm really happy I don't have kids right now. I love kids, and it's not to say, but
I
like
hope I
during
don't.
the pandemic, it's so amazing. Like I every time now I'm like, oh, you have kids, you suck.
Yeah, no I hope I don't.
You hope you don't ever. You don't ever want kids.
No, I hope I don't already. um
Oh, oh, right, yeah.
I've been trying to make this
Uh,
joke for like the last minute
I've
and it
actually,
keeps like flying
I
past, so
actually
now
very
it's
recently,
bad.
I actually very recently made that joke to someone, and like there was no response at first, and I was like, it's a joke because women usually know because it.
Yeah,
I mean,
how would you make that joke? I was thinking that doesn't
hilariously. I'd be like, I hope not.
hilariously.
It's a great
It's all
joke.
about the delivery. Oh,
Yeah.
eh?
I don't.
Eh?
It was really clever. I don't know why I hate
Eh?
puns so much, or
Oh, you hate puns?
I hate
I don't know if we're
puns.
gonna get along as well anymore.
Yeah, I don't think we can be friends anymore.
I'm all about those puns. Yeah.
I actually have a weird story that is probably
Oh, you do.
oversharing, but no, because I was thinking about this when you were talking about like how our relationship models influence us, and this is not a good example, but I think it is a mildly entertaining one. So when I was in kindergarten, I think it was me and my friend at the time, like I don't know why. I remember like cutting out fashiony things and like pasting them in a book. And for some reason, I start cutting out like maybe it was like a bra or something. And for some reason, the teacher said not to. And I don't think I had thought anything of it until she said not to. Like, don't start cutting out underwear or like. And I was like, well, now I have to. Like, what do you? Why did you make this forbidden? So me and my friend, this was the one that I very easily bossed around. Were like just cutting them out, and we made this little booklet, and we were like, he. We secretly made a book of like swimsuit. We basically made like a little
A
swimsuit
magazine.
magazine out of other magazines, and I don't know why. At one point, like I guess I brought it home, and my dad goes, "Oh wow, you can find me a girlfriend from there," or something like that. And my dad's, I don't know if you know my dad very well, but he makes a lot of jokes, and like
Oh,
I mean, he
jokes.
would make that joke, and my mom would laugh it off, kind of like it's just his sense of humor. But I didn't realize, like I was a kid, I didn't really know, so I was like, oh okay, he's looking for a girlfriend, and I didn't think about it in terms of anything. But then like later we were at the mall. I remember me and him and one of his friends, and I saw a girl to my dad. I was like, "Oh, do you think she'd be a nice girlfriend for you?" I must have been whatever, like kindergarten, like I don't know, 3 or 4, probably like 4. My dad's friend was like, "What?" And my dad's like, "No, no, it's just," he's like laughing because it's funny, but it's also like, and I remember just being confused, like, why do you not tell your friends that that you're looking for a girlfriend? Like, what is this? Was I supposed to keep this quiet? But yeah, so I mean, I just
It's
yeah,
a great
and
story. I just pictured you then going on like a mission
it
to
was
like I'm
I
gonna
was
find
trying to
my dad a
help.
girlfriend.
Yeah, I was like, oh, he's looking for a girlfriend. So I was like, how about that girl? And then he just laughs because it's a little funny. It's pretty messed up, but it's also funny.
I asked my dad once. I was like, Dad, did you ever cheat on
Mm.
mom? And he was like, why would you ask me that? He's like, you think I have time to cheat?
Oh,
He's like, cheating is for. He's like, that's for rich people.
Oh my God.
He's like,
Like
we
as
don't.
if
He's like,
that's
I'm
the
too busy.
difference. Yeah.
He answered in a way like, you think I wouldn't want to?
Yeah. Oh man. Well, I mean,
How do you think
that's
that influenced me?
exactly like that's essentially what I was taught as well. He was like, "Oh, find me a nice. Oh, these are very beautiful women. Can you find me a nice girlfriend here?" And I was like, "Okay, I guess so. Like, I guess that's my mission now." So, I don't want another
PDA,
topic.
yay or nay?
Yeah, I don't have any strong feelings on the top. Actually, I have this one, like, we were all in a friend group and then they started dating, and their PDA is like way over the top. Like, I don't think I'm a prude, but whatever they did, I was like, I want to spray them with water so they'll stop. Like, what are they? Like, what is going on here? What are you, 14? You don't have your own house to do this in? Like, they just be like hardcore making out in public. And I'm like, that's nobody wants to see that. Like, what are you doing? Is this like,
It's true. I don't think
avoid it?
anyone ever wants to see it,
We don't want to
but
see
I
it.
do. Yeah, but don't you ever, like when I was younger, like when I was in high school, I think because I wasn't
High school is different.
as
You don't have a place. You don't have your own apartment.
okay, but you're talking about like not having a place. But honestly, I remember thinking, like, as someone who wasn't that cool in high school, when I had a girlfriend in high school, I remember thinking,
Right.
yeah, I want to be one of those people making out against the locker,
Okay.
like, and everybody
Right.
walking by and being like, oh my God, Josh is making out with who? And I remember thinking,
Okay,
yeah, that's kind
exactly.
of, that felt cool. Nowadays, like, do I want to be making out in front of some, like, a couple of old ladies on a bench? Not really, but
But that's the thing. Actually, you've really hit the nail on the head. They were making out like they were trying to prove something. So making out
Mhm.
like you're trying to prove something when you were the guy who was bullied for many years, or even if you're just a dude who wants to show, or any many different scenarios that can end up making out on a locker in high school and having that make perfect 100% sense. One, you've got like all those crazy hormones. Two, where else are you going to do it? Three, it's kind of a thing that you do, and then you're like, look at me. Makes sense in high school. As like but when you're in your later 20s and you're with a group of friends and everybody's interacting normally and you're like hardcore making out, like what are you doing? And then you act like I'm the weirdo, because then I would be like, what are you guys doing? Because you know me,
they're
I
not really,
can't
I mean,
not
they're not
say it.
really empathizing. They're not empathizing with you. They're probably just like, I don't
No,
care. Like at some point, some people just don't care. They're like, they're in their own little world.
the problem is, once it was clear that I found it irritating, they actually like went overboard to do it more because they saw that it bothered me. But I was like, it's not like I'm some kind of, I don't know. I didn't appreciate the suggestion that I'm just like too uptight for this. I was just like, no, like this is not how you interact in society. And that said, it's not like I'm not a like it's not like I'm not a PDA person. It's just that particularly. It depends on
Oh, so
your
you are a
definition
PDA
of PDA.
person.
Not that kind of PDA.
You're like,
Okay,
I like holding hands. What do you mean? Like, what do you?
like I I mean I everything is fine except for like the stuff that like, okay, no, there's a difference. In if there's three of you, if you're like sitting at a table, or three or four of you, you're in
Then
a
you're just making the
small,
other person uncomfortable. Yeah.
yeah, it's like you're just making us uncomfortable. If
I
you're
don't
at
know,
like,
but that's never what it's like in the movies. In the movies, they do it, and everybody else is just chilling in the circle, going, "Yeah," like, and I'm like, that's not how we
that's
would act.
not how it is. It's more just like it's fine. I mean,
It's
there are
like
also
this
like
is really
cultural
uncomfortable.
differences. It's just kind of
Maybe
uncomfortable, but it
it's so funny
depends.
you said this. It reminded me of a story. This is actually the day that my second relationship started.
You
Right?
remember a lot. Yeah, good for you.
I do.
Okay.
Well, it's coming back now, but like I just remember she and I were like wandering around the mall,
Yeah.
and I just remember like we finally sat down at this bench, and she asked me about, oh yeah, because we were just kind of walking around at this time, but she knew I had a girlfriend at the
I'm
time, my
sorry.
first girlfriend.
Oh, whoa,
Yeah.
Josh,
So, but
scandal.
here's the thing: she knew I had, and she asked me about her, and and I said, well, actually, we just it just ended.
Oh,
We
okay,
just
gosh.
I just broke up with her,
Uh-huh.
and she's like, oh, I'm really sorry to hear that. And I turned to her and I was like, no, you're not.
Oh my God.
And
That's such a like,
and then we and then we started making out on this bench,
uh-huh.
and
In Masonville
then
Mall? Is this
in Masonville Mall. Do you know where it was, where the popcorn place was and everything?
Oh, that's like a
Like,
very central location too.
yeah, there was a, yes, right
Next to
there. And so we were
Colonel's?
just,
Yeah.
exactly. Now, not only that, so while we were making out, this girl who was working at Colonel's, she like comes over and she sits on the bench beside us and she goes, and she starts just like mocking us and imitating us.
That's awesome.
And she's just like, oh, look at me, I'm making out in front of everybody. And we were like trying to like
I
ignore
love
her,
that girl.
but
Yeah.
she just, that was probably you. This is probably like, this was like a version of
This
you.
was back when I
And she
worked at
just started like
Colonel's.
imitating us. And we were just like, we were having a moment and she just came and just, she's like, oh
Yeah.
yeah, there's people here. She just had fun doing that. And we were like, we should get out of here. And we like left. But like, I just
I love
remember
that
that.
girl. Yeah. If that girl's listening right now, please be my friend. So we can.
I thought you'd appreciate that story.
Yeah, I really
But yeah,
do.
I guess, but I think one of the most, important things we talked about was, when we talk about, being adulthood friends and everything like that, is how much priority we put on relationships versus our friendships. It just actually reminded me of one more story, even though I just told a story. So one of my previous girlfriends that I dated when I was, again, one of my earliest ones, was actually someone that a friend of mine, because this story ties right into that theme, was actually someone that my friend had previously dated. This is not like an intentional thing, however, but it just like happened. I remember at the beginning of this relationship being like, hey, I have to like ask this person if it's okay first. I don't want to like keep going into it. But then like someone saw us sitting together and then like told him, and then he was like really angry and then he wouldn't like talk to me anymore. And then I started feeling like every time I saw him in the hall and I was walking with her in high school, I would like pull away from her and act like I didn't know. Yeah. And I'd act like I didn't know who she was because I didn't want him to like feel bad. And finally, I remember literally because he wouldn't like reach out. He also had some misunderstandings about what had happened and they needed to be cleared up. But I remember running to his house. He lived not too far away. And I ran all the way to his house and I knocked on his door. His mom opened the door and I was like, hey, is he here? And she's like, no, he's not here right now. I'm like, well, could you just tell him it's not worth losing a friendship over? And I'll do whatever, right? Anyway, so I said that at the time. We did end up dating for a bit, me and this girl, but eventually I think he came over to my house for a party and we finally talked. And he said to me, he's like, hey, so when you were talking to my mom, I was there. He's like, I'm like, you were there? He's like, yeah. He's like, I was like hiding behind the door or something.
Oh
It was
my
so
God.
dramatic.
Yeah. Why?
And he's like, I'll never forget this. He said to me, and I'm like, so you heard what I said? He's like, yeah, it was cute.
Oh my God. And you guys made out on the bench in front of Colonel's, or like?
Yeah, and then we made out too. So anyways, I was like, look, man, like I do want to be friends. I'm like, look, like he had said some things about me and so I was like, look, all that's gone, but like.
Does this flashback slightly to our episode on losing friends? Because one of the people who was involved in that back and forth.
Honestly, the guy one of the reasons there were these big misunderstandings and why he wouldn't talk to me is that guy that who had all those issues that I stopped being friends with. He actually told my friend all these lies about like what he had told him, like we had started dating while they were dating and all kinds of stuff that wasn't true. Anyway, so episode 3 flashback. But basically my friend and I basically told him like, look, I'm not going to stop dating this girl now. We've been seeing each other a bit, but like, I want to be friends with you. Can we make this work? And it was like weird for a bit. But we ended up, we salvaged our friendship. Not only we're still friends today. We're good friends today. And that girl, we ended up breaking up, and I'm pretty sure a big part of it, I would always like not be near her when he walked by. I like clearly didn't want to. And she was like, in her mind, it was like, why can't you just like, we're together now?
Yeah.
I couldn't accept that. So I really, even then, I cared a lot about, even though I was like excited for one of my earliest relationships, just being in a relationship. And that was probably one of those relationships where I like to like make out in front of the lockers and be cool. But honestly, my friendships mean a lot to me, and I didn't want to sacrifice a friendship. So that's like a real practical example of me choosing that friendship over. And even to this day, I mean, I don't want to have to choose, and hopefully no one will ever make me choose between the two. I think you can have it all.
Yeah, I'd probably choose wrong.
You probably choose wrong. What do you mean by choose wrong?
I just feel like if I really liked someone and they were like, you should stop being friends with that person, I'd be like, yeah, I don't even care. That's fine. Like, someone's like, can you stop being friends with Josh? I'd be like, well, we have a podcast, so that's complicated.
Oh, so it's only the podcast. I see now. Okay.
It's all
That's
about the
why.
podcast. Yeah.
Honestly, if you were in a relationship and that person
Yeah.
said, hey, I don't want you seeing these other guys because it makes me feel uncomfortable, what would you say to them?
I mean, I'd be like, you don't need to be insecure. Like, I'm a trustworthy person.
And if they said, well, it's either me or them,
I'd be like, you have some issues that you need to deal with. If you deal with those and can like chill the fuck out, then that's fine. For now, perhaps it's better that we have some space. You know, that's my secure relationship.
Yeah,
response,
there you go. That's a good secure, because clearly they don't have a secure attachment personality.
Well, yeah, that's a little bit much. Yeah. I mean, clearly they have some stuff going on. I wouldn't want to be dismissive of it, but I also, I can't really imagine that being the case. I don't think I've ever had anything like that, but.
No, I mean, I have a friend who I recently heard, like, he was like, hey, it wasn't me, it was another friend of mine. He couldn't hang out with her too much because his girlfriend didn't like that.
Oh, like a different girl with like a friend?
Yeah. Yeah, my friend, his girlfriend didn't want him hanging out with my friend who's a girl.
Okay.
Because it made her feel uncomfortable. I remember thinking, he's like, yeah, so I can't be here too long, I have to go. And I'm like, oof. What? Like, what do you think he's going to do? Like, he's some animal you need to have on a leash. And if you don't keep him back, he's going to like, you need to have trust one way or another. And if someone breaks that trust, that's on them. You don't have any control over that. And if you try to have too much control over it, well, honestly,
that usually works the opposite way anyways.
Yeah. So I really think that you need to have trust. Whether or not someone holds that trust, that's not something you can control. So, you know, you have to be able to relinquish the control in a sense and recognize that, it takes two to tango. I love saying that. It takes two to tango.
Oh my God. Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah, I love my little cliche.
Yeah. I'm sad that my eye rolls don't get picked up by the microphone, but
I think we feel them. I think we can feel them, Maya.
Oh, yeah, I'm so happy.
There's like
they carry some.
It emanates. Yeah.
Great.
There's weight.
Okay, good. I'm so glad to hear that then. So yeah, we hit a lot of these topics actually.
We did.
I guess we should probably.
Yeah, we didn't talk about love languages, but screw it. Who cares about love languages?
I don't really care. I was thinking about it and then I was like, I don't care anymore. Also, it's pretty like seeped into pop culture at this point, so people know.
Yeah. Also, we just talked about it. We just said love languages, so there.
We did. Yeah.
The end.
I think most people's top one is words of affirmation. That's all we need to say, right? So everybody, if you don't know your love language,
except my girlfriend. So that's a
hers?
Thing. We were just talking about this. Honestly, I always throw words at her, and she's like, I don't care. So it's acts of service and quality time, I think.
Okay. So it helps that you like moved her couch.
Exactly, but that's like the only thing that I have to like.
That's
move
the only thing you've done, clearly. Yeah.
I was talking to her the other day. Like, why can't it be all of them? Like, I can't do as many acts of service as I can words. So in between the acts of service, how about some words?
Yeah.
But that's not. Then she's like, that's not how it all works. And I was like, no, you know. But anyway, we talked about. So anyway, some words of affirmation here, Aya. Since you like them so much, you're great, and I love having you as an adulthood friend.
I like having you as an adulthood friend too.
Oh my God, that speaks to my like for words of affirmation.
Oh yeah, even when I say it in like an annoying, insincere voice.
I hear what I want to hear.
Oh, okay, great. That's good. You're easy. Secure people are so easy. They don't question anything.
Wait, so what are you doing for Valentine's Day? Are you doing anything? Have you made plans?
I have no plans. I guess I've got some ice cream in the freezer.
I haven't made plans either, but like Valentine's Day is a little bit more digestible because you're like, oh, I can celebrate this thing now. But when you're alone, you're like, screw this holiday. So
I just told you I'm going to be eating ice cream. So where did you get?
Are you going to be? I thought maybe you'd be eating ice cream with somebody else.
I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't know.
Well, you thought I pictured you like eating ice cream by yourself out of the bin? Well,
yeah, that was the image I was trying to give.
Oh no, I got an image of you having like a romantic dinner with ice cream in between two. Because I mean, my girlfriend and I had ice cream the other day, and it was nice.
No, I was thinking like, I don't have plans, so I'm going to be eating ice cream in front of the TV alone in my PJs with my cat. I like Valentine's though. I don't have anything against it.
Do you love love? Do you like love?
I love love.
Do you love being in love?
I mean, don't we all? It's terrifying, but it's fun.
And we never asked the question, have you ever been in love?
I'd say yeah. How about you? Maybe the one time?
You know what? I used to say before that I've loved, but I hadn't been in love, I think. I didn't know
Yeah.
how. I think that last relationship actually taught me what it meant to be in love, and I know how to like get there now. I think before there, like I said, I had that block. So now I think I'm capable of it, because we said, it's also about what you do, it's not just.
Yeah. No, I'm an old softie. I'd say like I've probably.
You're a big softie.
I'm a big softie.
Like soft serve ice cream.
Ew. I mean, like.
You don't like soft serve?
No, I do. It's actually, it's the weirdest reason that I had that reaction. I can explain it, but it's gonna make you second guess soft serve ice cream. So when cats have like poop problems, the vet asks you if it looks like soft serve ice cream. So when you just said soft serve ice cream, I pictured my cat's diarrhea.
You know what? It's as gross as that is, I'm not letting it take away from my love for soft serve.
Well, because you haven't seen the soft serve ice cream poo.
You know what? I had a cat growing up. I've seen it all.
Yeah, maybe. That's why I said ew to soft serve ice cream. That's so weird.
Well, thank you I thought maybe you said ew because, an ex like got you soft serve one.
No, my cat just shat it.
It's good because you're secure in your relationship with your cat that you don't need anybody else. Like if they're going to come into your life, they better have something to offer.
To be perfectly honest, getting the cat really changed how I looked at relationships, because I've always felt like I needed an outlet for, like, I have a lot of, this is really lame, but I feel like I have a lot of love and affection, and it's really nice to have an outlet for it that is like, she's never gonna leave. I mean, she can leave, but like, she probably wouldn't. It's very different. So I just get to give her all my love and affection, and then it's fine.
It's good. It's a healthy relationship.
Outlet. Yeah, and then anything else is like bonus, but I have my
exactly. That's what I was saying too, by the way, before, why I think it's really good to have like your friends and have the relationship. It's healthier if you have that outlet also with your friends, because putting everything on the relationship can be a lot of nerve-wracking.
Yeah, for sure. That's quite
I'm glad that you can relate now once we use your cat.
Yeah. Finally. She's just ridiculous and hilarious too. Okay, I'll stop talking about my cat now. This has been another episode of Adulthood Friends. Thank you for listening, and if you like what you hear, please rate, review, and subscribe on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or wherever you like to listen. We're basically everywhere now. And we also have a Facebook page. If you haven't liked it yet, please like it and or follow us. That way you'll get all the updates, and we'll keep you updated when we get new episodes. We'll probably start posting opportunities for you guys to send in questions and things so that we can get a bit more of a back and forth thing going.
Yeah, well, interaction.
With our listeners, some interactions.
If you have something to contribute about a topic, please let us know, and maybe we'll bring that up in a future episode and we'll discuss it. Yeah, because this is a conversation, and we want to have that conversation with you guys too. So
yeah, like we're kind of tired of talking to each other, to be honest. Like, if I have to have another conversation with Josh, oh my God. And this will be the last episode of Adulthood Friends. No, we're still good. It's lovely. Yeah. It's been lovely as usual talking to you, Josh.
And you, Aya. Yeah. And happy Valentine's Day, everybody.
Yeah, happy Valentine's Day to all.
And whether you love it or hate it.
Yeah. Just happy.
I hope that your day is good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or just normal. Just a normal day is fine too. Yeah. And how are we going to end this thing? Do we have a catchphrase yet?
Well, I think that I should just be in the middle of talking, and then at some point it'll just